Okay, we're back. I've got a whole bunch of stories for you guys today. And I'm going to be working on prettying up my base, like the outside, adding a bunch of bushes and greenery. I'm not the best at this kind of thing, but, we live and we learn. Okay, going into the first story. I want to leave my husband. Am I the bad person? I've been married for 1.5 years. I knew my husband for 2 years before we got married, but we didn't live together before marriage. Before the wedding, my husband managed his father's building, and that was his only source of income. Right before we got married, his father removed him from that role. About a year ago, my husband suggested I open my dental clinic in his father's building. I was hesitant, but agreed because we needed the income. I didn't pay rent for the space, but I paid for all the interior work and set up myself. From our wedding day, we started having serious issues. We fought on the first day, and even our honeymoon was bad. Throughout the first year, we kept fighting. Whenever there's a problem, I'm always the one trying to talk and fix things. He avoids conflict and uses the silent treatment, sometimes for weeks, and recently for a full month. During our marriage, I lost both my sister to cancer and my father. During those times, he wasn't speaking to me and even locked me out of the house. He doesn't support me emotionally. He doesn't greet me, say good morning or good night, and often ignores me even when I cry in front of him. I feel invisible. After these long, painful silent treatments, he eventually goes back to normal as if nothing happened. He doesn't bring it up or try to resolve it. Sometimes he apologizes, sometimes he doesn't. When he is talking to me, he can be kind and pleasant, which makes everything even more confusing. I genuinely can't tell if he's a good person or not. The inconsistency is exhausting. The hot and cold behavior makes me question myself and my reality. I feel like I'm going insane trying to make sense of it. He hasn't worked for a full year. I've been the breadwinner, paying bills, groceries, and all expenses. He helps with housework, but that's it. When we argue, he brings up that I don't pay rent for the clinic space. I've told him I'm willing to pay rent and that I already cover all of our living expenses. I'm thinking about divorce and possibly leaving the clinic. He makes me feel guilty, like he's done so much for me because of the clinic space. Am I wrong for wanting to leave? Okay. Seems like he's holding this clinic space that he was able to get OP over her head and kind of manipulating her in order to do less work in other areas. And she talked about how he's nice sometimes and then extremely cold at other times. And in my experience, when someone switches up like that, it's because they finally, dropped the mask and they can no longer pretend to be someone that they're not. So I personally would not blame OP for leaving at all. The relationship has obviously become extremely unhealthy. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comment section below. And leave a like while you're at it. Okay. Am I the bad person for cutting off my son after his mom passed away? I've been my son's dad since he was 1. He's 27 now. I was friends with his mom for years before she got pregnant and the bio dad took off. I was around helping her with stuff, and one thing led to another, and we got together. It wasn't really planned or anything, it just happened. Her and I cared for each other deeply, but it wasn't some huge romantic story. We were a partnership. We got married when Mark was 3, and I adopted him when he was 5. Tammy took care of Mark, me, and my house. I worked and paid for everything. It was a good life. I had never wanted kids, but I loved Mark and gave him everything I could. Not just material goods. I was there for him growing up. I attended all his extracurricular activities that I could. I taught him how to ride a bike and how to change his oil. We took him on my vacations. I made sure that when he graduated from university, he was debt-free. He was always a good kid until university changed him. He became distant. He would call to talk to his mom, but not to me. Turns out he met a girl who had been adopted, and she had baggage she decided to share with him. He had contacted his biological father, and I was being displaced. Mark was everything to Tammy, and she supported him in everything that he did. As his mom, I would expect no less, but it still hurt to be cut out of his life. When Tammy got sick, Mark and I would see each other every time he came to see her, but we would barely talk. When she passed away, I saw him at the funeral, and then only heard from him to settle her estate, which was not much. She had a very small life insurance policy that she left Mark. Everything else was mine. Her bank account only had the money we budgeted for her. There wasn't much in it because she had been subsidizing Mark's life since he graduated. Like clockwork, every month I would deposit her share of our budget, and most of it went to him. Tammy and I had a separate life insurance policy that we set up. It was more substantial than the other one. We originally set them up in case anything happened to us, the other could have money to live and take care of Mark. I was the beneficiary since I was paying for it. Now that his mom is gone and not helping pay his bills, Mark is calling me for help. I said no. I said he had the money from his mom's life insurance. Everything else is quite literally mine. Even the car she drove was leased by me. He is upset with me and said that I obviously never thought of him as a son if I was willing to do this. I told him to ask his bio dad for help since that's who he wanted in his life. His wife Sarah, the girl from university, called me and said that I would be cut out of their lives and that I would never see my grandchildren. They don't have kids yet, but I suppose they were planning on a family. I told her that I was okay with that, and I am. I miss Tammy, but I'm okay. I have my dogs and my job. I see my sisters and their kids and grandkids. I'm involved in their lives. So am I the bad person for cutting off financial support to a full-grown man with a job and a wife? Okay, a lot going on. I personally think cutting him off completely is absolutely overkill, right? And the fact that his wife is the one who really initiated everything, right? She's the one that even told him that he was getting cut off and would never see his grandchildren because he doesn't want to cough up free money. That's basically a ransom, no? In a way. Not to mention the fact that the grandchildren don't even exist yet. These are theoretical future grandchildren we're talking about. But yeah, not the bad person in my opinion. Am I overreacting for being upset my friend invited me to a party she wasn't going to be at? So my friend said I was making a big deal out of nothing, but I felt justified in kind of being upset. Anyways, my friend invited me to a house party. She was helping throw it, but it was at her boyfriend's and his roommate's place. When she originally invited me, I told her I wasn't really feeling it, not that big into house parties anymore. Then she got a little pouty and insisted that I come. And I was like, maybe, I guess. Then the next couple times we see each other, she's still talking about the house party and doing the whole I'll see you there because you're definitely coming thing. So the day of the party arrives. I go and I'm hanging out with my friends / mingling with people, and her boyfriend comes up and asks if she'll be ready to go soon. I ask where they're going, and she mentions a party that his neighbors invited them to. I feel a little dumb about this, but I said, oh cool, we're hitting up another party? And my friend got quiet and was like, actually, we are going to another party, but you can stay here and hang out. Have fun. It's a party. This is when I got upset and was like, you're seriously leaving? Why didn't you tell me you had other plans? I only came because you insisted. And she was like, chill out. You're overreacting. You don't need me here to enjoy the party. I invited you to the party, not just to hang out with me. Anyways, I left and I guess I closed the door harder than I realized because I got a text that I embarrassed her storming out. Am I overreacting? I think it's usually pretty safe to assume that if someone invites you to a party, they are going to be there themselves. I mean, come on. If you say, hey, let's hang out, especially if they insist on you coming to the party, even when you showed reservations about going, them leaving abruptly is absurd. Definitely not overreacting at all. And I'm sure the friend knows that what they're doing is a little less than right, but it looks like they're trying to avoid accountability in the situation here. Anyways, what do you guys think? On to the next story. Would I be the a-hole if I secretly take my grandpa to the doctor even though my aunt insists she knows better? I, 16F, have a paternal aunt, 45, who studied pharmacy in university and has always been into alternative medicine. For some reason, my entire family seems to think her degree from decades ago makes her qualified to be the family doctor. I never really questioned it until a few months ago when we found out she had been hiding my grandma's breast cancer from the entire family and treating her with a diet. The way we found out was traumatic. My grandma suddenly had weird speech, so we rushed her to the ER only to discover she had 8 brain tumors, one so large it caused internal bleeding. She had emergency surgery, and multiple doctors told us she was essentially beyond help. She had had breast cancer for at least 7 years, and my aunt had been covering it up the entire time. Now onto my grandpa. His feet have been swollen for years. The doctor my aunt insists he sees prescribed a pill for it, but my aunt refuses to let him take it because she knows better. Recently, they got him compression socks, but ever since he started wearing them, his face has been bloated and he's been really tired and off. 2 days ago, I told my dad I was going to take my grandpa to a proper doctor, whether anyone liked it or not, and he said, okay. But when I asked my mom which doctor I should take him to, she told me to confirm with my dad because I can't take my grandpa alone. My dad then said to ask my aunt. Of course, my aunt dismissed my concerns and said that he's fine. I don't trust her at all. I honestly think my grandpa could be in serious danger if we keep leaving things up to her. My plan is to tell him I'm taking him for a walk and then secretly bring him to a real doctor. I know this would cause huge drama in my family if anyone found out. So would I be the bad person if I take him without adult permission or anyone else's knowledge? Edit. I see a lot of people saying this is elder abuse, but both my grandparents are very aware of these decisions and support them fully. My grandma was the one who pressured my aunt into keeping it a secret. The only reason I think I can take my grandpa to the doctor without him putting up a fight is because he is a man of very, very few words and would probably not say anything if put on the spot. But he would definitely object should I tell him the plan prior. Also, I definitely think the swelling has something to do with his heart because I've heard the adults saying it started right after a stroke multiple times. Update number 1. My cousin told my aunt that I was worried about my grandpa, and she just sent me a 3-minute voice message basically telling me that this is their decision and that everything is okay and to back off. I feel so helpless. This post happened to include the update, so we're going to go through that and then after we'll go over some relevant comments. Okay, update. A couple months ago, I posted asking for advice regarding my grandfather's health. My family refused to take my ill grandfather to a doctor, and I was considering taking him in secret against my family's wishes. It's been almost a year since then, and I finally have an update for you. I didn't end up taking my grandpa to the doctor because after I spoke with my mom, she convinced me it was a bad idea and that I would only cause more drama. The doctor could prescribe a magic pill to fix all his problems, and if my aunt wasn't on board, he wouldn't take it. However, I did send my dad a hostile message saying I was going to take my grandpa to the doctor and that he's too ill to just let be. He told me to speak to my aunt, and I got mad at him for still relying on her after she tried to heal my grandma's cancer with a diet. I spoke to him again and convinced him to go take my grandpa to a new doctor. I booked an appointment with a cardiologist for that week, and I'd like to note that I went through a lot of trouble to get him an appointment so soon. When the day of the appointment came, my dad said my grandpa wasn't feeling up for it. I honestly gave up at that point and realized they were beyond help. A lot of people in the comments of my original post asked what my grandpa wanted, and I explained that he doesn't really speak and only goes along with what his children do or say. Turns out, the reason he was so quiet all the time is because he was depressed. As if by miracle, the stupid doctor they love to see diagnosed him with depression last week, something my mom has been saying for months, and explained that a lot of the physical symptoms were a result of that. The doctor also suggested that my grandpa has issues in one of his glands. They told me what it is, but I forgot, as well as some infections in his body. My grandpa has finally started on some medication, and my dad finally agreed that the doctors should have caught these things way sooner, and has agreed to take my grandpa for further testing elsewhere. Alright, top comments. Well, bless you for caring about your grandpa so much. If you can manage it, don't give up on him. If your aunt has POA for healthcare for your grandpa, you may get foiled again. But now that he's being treated for depression, he may start speaking up for himself. Comment number 2. You can always call Adult Protective Services. Medical abuse is a thing. What a crazy story. Moving on to the next one. My husband lied about getting laid off. I found out a week ago, but I've only just calmed down enough to be able to talk about it. I'm not ready to share my dirty laundry in public yet, but I need to tell somebody about it. In May, my husband lost his job. He said his entire division had been laid off because their jobs were outsourced. Then, last week, I happened to run into my husband's former colleague and his wife while I was out at the shops. From my conversation with his former colleague, it came to light that my husband quit because the company mandated all employees to come into the office 2 or 3 days a week, and my husband wanted to stay remote. I was so humiliated because I expressed sympathy to his former colleague about the layoffs only to find out there wasn't any. When I confronted my husband, he admitted it. He said he didn't think it would be a problem since I was already making more than him. I've been working as much overtime as I can at the hospital to keep our heads above water. Come to find out, my husband voluntarily left his job and has only been applying for fully remote jobs instead of looking for any job he can get. He admitted to all of it. If his decision just affected him, it would be one thing. We have a 6-year-old. I've been feeling guilt for months about being away from her so much because I've been working as many shifts in the A&E as I can get. My husband says he is sorry, but something has broken between us, and our marriage cannot be fixed. I spent months bottling my feelings about him not working and doing less chores because I thought he was depressed about losing his job. He kept saying how guilty he felt about not working, and I didn't want to add to it. I kept thinking as soon as he found another job, everything would be fine. Meanwhile, he's been having a holiday sitting at home while I ran myself ragged, keeping us above water. I am moving out of our flat as soon as I can find another place for myself and my daughter. I don't care what my husband says. Every time he apologizes, it just makes me angrier. I don't want to tell anyone until I find somewhere else to live, but I needed to get this out before my anger consumes me and I lose it in front of my daughter. I didn't even know it was possible to be this angry. We'll go through a few relevant comments. Number 1, he isn't paying the bills. Kick his butt out. I'm not gonna lie, I agree with that. Anyway, number 2, this is a major issue. When I lost my job, my wife, who had just given birth about 6 months before, found a job literally that day at a warehouse. I found a new job less than 6 weeks later, but she was determined to help however she could to make sure our new family made it. Your husband is being shamefully self-centered, and if he doesn't see that, you need to sit down and talk to him until he does. If he fails to see it, you have to talk about what that means for your future together. I'd be very pissed myself. This story does have an update as well, so we're going to go through that right now. My husband lied about getting laid off. I first posted this just over 6 months ago. My update is not terribly long or exciting, but there have been changes. I have moved out of our flat. Living separately and having some breathing space for my husband has helped with my anger towards him in the day-to-day. I'm obviously still hurt and angry. Originally, my husband said he would not contest our divorce. Last week, he changed his mind, and he is contesting it now. We both had solicitors and were working towards an agreement regarding our finances and our 6-year-old daughter. Now my husband has decided to contest the divorce. My solicitor says it will not stop me from being able to get a divorce. Another piece of good news is that although my husband still doesn't have a job, my solicitor says I will most likely not have to pay him any spousal maintenance. Even though I was always the higher earner in our marriage, the difference in our salaries was not enough to warrant it. And now that he had chosen not to work, he cannot claim he needs my support. I may still have to pay him child maintenance depending on how much time he has with our daughter. It still feels like I'm barely keeping my head above water because I can't withdraw financial support yet. I can once the finances have been settled, and my solicitor says the court will not look kindly on my husband if he tries to delay that. My main focus is my daughter, and making sure this affects her as little as possible. I appreciate anyone who commented with support after my first post. Okay, this is definitely a doozy. I cannot imagine doing this to my family. Just out of selfishness, not wanting to go into the office for 2 days out of the week. That's a little ridiculous, and then on top of that, lying about it to your wife, and then her picking up more overtime, giving her less time with her 6-year-old daughter just because you don't want to go into the office. That's absolutely crazy. You guys let me know what you think in the comments, but I am not on his side at all with this one. Anyways, this is what we did with the base, tidied it up a little bit. I think it's an improvement. I might, come back and change a whole bunch of things. I need to make more of these lamp posts as well. But overall, an improvement. I'm proud of what I did. And yeah, thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment your thoughts. But yeah, I appreciate you guys very much. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.